All right, Chris, let's dive right into tonight's show with
Okay.
our first topic. We're going to do the depth chart for the offense this week. And so this is going to be what Chris and I believe is the two deep on offense post spring football before they reconvene for fall football later this summer and prepare for the season. So, Chris, I'm going to let you decide which position we're going to go with first. But right before we do, Robert Allen's in the house. What's up, guys? Crossing I 80 to go toward the state up north. Uh oh, be careful up there. You don't want to catch TTU in, Robert. Make sure you're wearing your Woody hat. Good to have you with us. And then Ryan Wickerham says offensive line is a. Well, we're going to get into that. Don't you worry. But
Yes.
Chris, we're going to let you start first. Which position would you like to break down first on offense?
No, well, Eric, let's just start right at the top. Everybody was asking it. We've debated it. Let's talk quarterback. For me, I think it's still got to be Kyle McCord. He's going to be getting all the reps right now, or has been getting all the reps since the Devin Brown injury. I think he was the favorite coming in. I don't think he's done anything necessarily to lose the position of number one. And with Brown coming off an injury, who knows how he's going to be. We talked about it. He didn't have his main weapons there in the spring game, so maybe didn't look as good as he might have looked. I got McCord at one, Devin Brown at two, Tristan Gebbia at three.
I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And I would say across the board, you're not going to get much argument from many people or many experts or people in the media. I'm pretty sure that is what the depth chart is going to be heading into the season.
And let me
Um,
tell you something else. I don't know if you noticed while we were at the spring game, if you checked out any of the shops there inside the shoe that were selling jerseys,
I did not.
Kyle McCord's was the only quarterback jersey being sold.
Is this a conspiracy that I'm getting from you
Not
here?
necessarily a conspiracy. I'm just saying it's maybe a little foreshadowing.
Robert says my daughter won't let me have her Woody hat. Oh shoot! Robert sent me a picture of his
Of
family and
his,
all that.
yeah. Did you
Yeah,
see his wife the other day wearing the shirt?
wearing the OHIO podcast shirt. All the
Yeah.
goodies they got from our tailgate. All right, yeah, I'm not buying into that conspiracy theory, but uh, also I could make the argument if there's a lot of those jerseys there, they're not being sold.
That's true.
Let's go
Well,
to
I
the
didn't say there
running.
was a lot there. I just said they were the ones being sold there.
Oh, that's true. Good point. Let's go to the running back position, shall we? All right. I think this is also pretty self-explanatory. I think you got two guys that you could call 1A and 1B. Trayvion Henderson, Mayan Williams. And then I'm going to maybe throw a little monkey wrench in for some people. I think the backup to those two coming out of the spring, that's my little asterisk there, Chip Trayanum.
Yeah,
What do you
I,
think?
I agree with you, Eric. Um, and I'll go as far as to say this. I also think um, Mayan Williams gets the first snap of the season. He is the game one de facto starter, I believe. I do think you'll see a lot of him and Travion both. But yeah, I can definitely see Chip as the number three guy. Is that going to lead to maybe a jump into the transfer portal for some other guys? Possibly.
We'll see. I think that there's a very good chance, given what we saw last season, all five guys end up playing. I think that Tony Alford can make the case to all five guys that you want to hang around. Um, that not only because of the injury history we saw last year, but I think each guy brings something a little different to the table. They're all a little bit different of a runner. And I'm looking forward to the day where Ohio State gets out in a lead big enough and he actually lets the backups play like they should play.
Well, here's my question. We've got five legit backs right there.
We do on
And
scholarship,
is
yes.
there is there any possibility that we might actually see given where the tackle position was during the spring game, where we might actually see some two back sets.
No.
Don't think.
That's wishful thinking. That sounds a lot like
Just
a,
a thought.
like what of a lot of us Buckeye fans talk from year to year, but I just don't think it's in Ryan Day's offense. I really don't. Um, Frank says Bucks have 5 legit Big Ten backs in 2023. I do not disagree. Uh,
Absolutely.
and the forgetful one in this, Chris, is Evan Pryor.
Evan Pryor. Yeah.
He's coming off a bad injury from last season. Now we'll see where he's at in his recovery coming into 2023. I don't think they're going to push the envelope and push him back into the lineup quickly. I
Maybe,
think
maybe
he's
on passing downs we might see him a little more. I think.
yeah, and I think you'll see him later in games as he
Yeah.
gets into. But if he's anywhere as explosive as he was going into the season last year, it's going to be hard to keep him off the field. And let's not forget. Now we're talking about the 5 scholarship
Yeah.
guys. Ryan brings up a good point
Caffey.
here.
Yeah.
He said I met TC Caffey's aunt. His name is Tim. Is it Cafferty? Is that what that says?
It's
Um,
Caffey. I think that's just a typo.
Okay, he played major in one game last season, probably 5 or 6 on the depth chart. Yeah, he looked great that game. I mean,
It's
he looked.
coffee. Yeah. TC Coffee.
Is it coffee or caffee?
I'm not sure. I thought it was
Uh,
coffee, but I could be wrong.
um. Anyways, we all know who he's talking about. He's the walk-on
Yes.
who had a phenomenal game last year, and I look for him to. It's going to be hard for any of those guys to see the field if all 5 running backs are healthy.
Yeah.
But what's the chances of that? What position you want to go to next, bud?
Well, I'll tell you what. I want to talk about receiver because I think there's this just foregone conclusion that you're going to have, Carnell Tate, Emeka Egbuka, Marvin Harris. I'm sorry, Julian Fleming, Marvin Harrison, and Emeka Egbuka. But I think I'm going to shake it up a little bit. I think we see Marvin Harrison more in that slot, that slot receiver spot. I think we see Carnell Tate out at the X. I think we see Carnell Tate backed up by Noah Rogers and Jaden Ballard out at the X. I think the Y, you've got Emeka Egbuka, Julian Fleming, and Brandon Ennis. And in the slot, I like Marvin Harrison Jr., backed up by Xavier Johnson and Caleb Brown.
They're going to move them all around.
I think so. And I think given the number of reps that Harrison Jr. had this spring in the slot, and the fact that we're going to have to get the ball into his hands quick so he can make things happen, I see him being more in the slot than he is on the outside this year.
If the offensive line cannot get their act together, I agree with that comment.
Yes.
Um, I do think that he has, and here's the thing: Marvin Harrison Jr. can play all three. He can play the X, Y, and slot. He can
Yes, he
play them all.
can.
Play them all. And so when you have a weapon like that, that also offers you the ability to move him around and then open up those other slots for more depth people. So I'm with you in the idea that Carnell Tate is going to see the field faster than what we realized.
Well, I'll tell you, I think I like him on that outside. He has that speed that I think he is that type of burner who can just stretch the field. And, you've got Egbuka and Harrison who can work more in the slot underneath, interchanging that slot and that Y position.
Yeah, Paul Buckeye says Xavier is all purpose. Love his effort. Dude can play anywhere. We mentioned the 5 running backs and TC as being the walk on at 6. Let's not forget Xavier in the game against Georgia ran the football and did well. So he can literally play any of the receivers. Or any of the positions. Ryan says I agree with those wide receivers for sure. All right, let me ask you this question, Chris. We're in Bloomington, Indiana. We win the coin toss. They kick it through the end zone. We take the ball on the 25-yard line. Ryan Day trots out their 3 starting wide receivers in the first play of the game. Who are those 3 wide receivers?
Harrison Jr., Emeka Egbuka, and Carnell Tate.
So you went Tate over
Julian
Julian
Fleming.
Fleming.
Yes.
Let me ask you this question next. If that's the case, will Julian Fleming be on this roster this fall?
I don't know that he is. I think we may see a Jamison Williams situation here where, but you know what? Fleming also has had so much injury, and he's kind of hung through it all. I just don't know that he is the guy that we thought he was, and I'm not saying he wasn't that way coming in. I just think that the injuries have probably taken their toll. Unfortunately, I think he's somewhat healthier, but we could be looking at a Cameron Babb situation with Julian Fleming,
Not to that
where
extreme,
not to that
obviously, but
extreme, but I mean, a guy who has all this
Johnny
talent, and
Dixon
he's
type of maybe
Johnny
Johnny
Dixon,
Dixon.
maybe.
Remember, he
Yeah.
went through a lot of injuries. I'm going to disagree with you. I'm going to push back. I think Julian Fleming does get the start. However, I do believe that Carnell Tate is going to play. He's going to get playing time. He's earned it. I'll tell you another one. I think Noah Rogers gets playing time too. I think he's in the two deep. So let me give you my two deep, okay?
Mhm.
I'm going to go with the three that I mentioned as my starters: Agbuka in the slot, Harrison in the X, Fleming at the Z. I'm going to go with Xavier Johnson as my next slot receiver, Carnell Tate backing up Marvin Harrison Jr. And right now, I'm going to go with Jaden Ballard with Julian Fleming. But I can also, but we there's one other thing that we need to throw a little asterisk in this. Brandon Ennis isn't here yet, and he's the
Yeah.
highest ranked out of all three of those wide receivers in this class, including Carnell Tate.
The only thing, and I love Julian Fleming, and I hope he comes out. I hope he does well. I hope he has a productive season. But I just feel like, uh, first of all, I think the other guys give you more of an ability to stretch the field. Secondly, and our friend Paul Buckeye here pointed it out, Fleming has been known to have a few bounce right off the chest pads.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. He doesn't. He lets it come into his body too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Well, obviously he's going. You would assume he's worked on that. He's probably been on the jugs machine big time since he really wasn't participating in spring ball, given his
You
injury,
would hope.
which I believe was a leg injury. So nowhere, nothing could prevent you from sitting 10 yards down and just catching the ball from the jugs machine all day long. All right, let's move to the tight end position. Boy, oh boy. Well, obviously your starter's Cade Stover. From there, we've got a debate, man. You got
Yes.
you got G. Scott, you got Joe Royer, Sam Hart and Bennett Christian have been with the program a couple years, and then you got the highly talented freshman from Georgia, Jelani Thurman. Uh, and let's not forget, you got what's his name on ESPN, his boy Kirk Herbstreit's son,
Yep.
who's a walk on. Given all of that criteria, obviously Stover's one. I right now I'm leaning G Scott as the
I am as
two,
well.
leaning, but I am not against Jelani Thurman jumping up and,
Yep.
and and taking this thing from people.
I have
He
Jelani
was
at
a
3 right
beast.
now.
Okay.
Yeah. I've got Thurman at 3 right now, and I feel like you're right. I think G. Scott is right now got the edge. He's put the time in. I thought he looked pretty decent in the spring game
He looked
for
great.
so, for me, I think that G. Scott, the experience gives him that number 2, but don't be surprised. Jelani Thurman could sneak in there.
Yeah, and I think, Paul and Frank, they agree with us on that. It's hard for a freshman though to break the starting lineup at tight end because of
Yes.
of one particular thing. You have got to be able to run block and pass block as a tight end in Ohio State's
Yes.
offense. And that's something he's going to have to learn. Every tight end that comes into college football through Ohio State, it takes them a year or two to develop into the physicality that they need to play that position both ways like that. Let's look at Jeremy Ruckert, right? Jeremy Ruckert had all the pass catching skills that you possibly could want from a tight end,
Yes.
but he just wasn't ready for the physicality that it was going to take to block a big linebacker or defensive end and things of that nature. And so it took him a season and a half before he really saw the field. Jelani Thurman is physical enough. He's big enough, but the technique is where I question him
Right.
on his pass blocking, particularly. So let's see how that goes early on. I think he gets into the game late. Now, G Thurman, or G Scott, excuse me, G Scott, that's something he's had to work on as well because remember, he was a receiver
Yes.
and he transitioned to tight end. And he's still a little bit light on the blocking side of things for a tight end. Um, but now he's been with the program. I think this is year number 4. So
Yep.
it's put up or shut up time. I'm going to go ahead and say he puts up. He's going to be my starter there. I also think this is another position that Ohio State fans need to be aware of when it comes to portal watch.
Yes.
Don't know that we hold on to all of these guys. Mark Flood says our offense will be fire. Um,
If Kyle McCord has time to work,
it depends on the offensive line. If the offensive line comes around, then I agree with you, Mark.
yeah.
But it all depends on the offensive line. Paul says no more headbutts from G. Scott costing the team personal fouls, though. I wasn't going to bring it up, but Paul, yes, that was a bad
That's a
moment.
mistake. I don't think that young man will make again, though.
I agree with that 100% with you, Chris. All right, so we've talked quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end.
We got to
Here we
address it, Eric.
here we go. Here we go,
So,
Chris. Now,
so
now I
let's
would
go with what we
let's say
know.
this first. Let's say this first. I do not believe the starting lineup you and I are about to give everybody on the offensive line will be the starting lineup against
No,
Indiana to start the season.
no.
So as that
I
is a caveat.
whether it's a portal pickup or whether it's a moving people around, I think that the offensive line is going to change.
Eric Osbeck, thanks for stopping in. Eric, great to see you at the tailgate as well. Good to have you with us tonight. He says the O line could be the big stumbling block this year. Let's go ahead with the first team, second team, Chris. We'll do first team first, then we'll talk about it. Second team, talk about it. Then we'll get to Eric Osbeck's comments.
Okay. Well, do we want to just run them the five straight across, or do we want to
Let's do
go
let's, let's
position
do
by
that.
position?
Let's go straight across.
Okay. So for me, as it stands right now, I think you've got left tackle Josh Pryor, left guard Donovan Jackson. I think at center Carson Hinsman's locked that up. Right guard Matt Jones, and I think at right tackle, I believe that Tegra Shaboa has overtaken Zen Mikowski.
I
So
agree.
for me, that is the number ones.
All right, let me ask all of you out there who are watching right now. We appreciate all of you who are watching. I've watched the numbers continuing to climb. We appreciate all of you who are watching live. Given that starting lineup, which I agree with, how confident are you if this is the starting lineup, guys, that this team can win the Big Ten and beat that team up north this next year on a scale of 1 to 10? 1, they've got no shot. 10, it's a done deal. Scale of 1 to 10, with that starting lineup at the offensive line, how confident are you that we can achieve our goals this season? Chris, where are you at?
Well, I'll tell you right now, honestly, Eric, if we have to run with that starting line, playing the way they played in the spring, I'd say 50%. If you give them the whole off season, I'm thinking more. I've got confidence in what our coaches can do. I'm going to say 70% maybe.
So you're going with a 7?
70%. If are you saying a 1 through 10? Yeah, 7.
Mm-hmm. So you're with Brian Wickerham here to 7. Paul Buckeye, I love your enthusiasm and positivity. You're going with a 9. Frank Johnson Sr. agrees with you. He says 7. Donald Hoffer, I think, was the lowest. He was at a 4. Let me see if I can find that.
Well, if they're taking like I said, if we're talking about strictly what we saw at the spring game, yeah, I'm at about a 5. But I have some confidence that the coaches can flip it around. That's why I'm saying a 7.
Mark
But
Flood says we won't be stopped. He's at a 9. He's pretty confident as well.
love it, love it.
Mark Swick says 8. So for you guys who are 7 and above at this starting lineup, why are you so confident? Is it the coaching staff? Is it because you just think that they're going to develop because of the coaching staff or whatever reason? Give me some reasons why you think those starting 5 right there can win us the Big 10 and overcome the shortcomings we obviously saw in the spring game. First answer is from Mark Flood, tradition. I don't know how that's going to help these guys other than maybe confidence, possibly. What do you think,
For,
Chris?
for me, I've got to say, Eric, I think it's a combination of a couple of things. First of all, these guys have the athletic ability to make it happen. Otherwise, they wouldn't be at the Ohio State University. Secondly, I think we have tremendous coaches. I like Justin Fry and what he can do. Um, I'm going to give Ryan Day, who I criticize often, the benefit of the doubt that he can also adjust the game plan to play to the strengths of this offensive line because I think he knows that he has to. I don't think that losing is an option for Ryan Day at this point.
I like Robert's comment here. He says, "Keep in mind this offensive line is going against one of the best defensive lines in
Without
the
a
nation
doubt.
in practice. You're only going to get better." Yeah, that's a great, good Robert. Good on you. Good comment there. He's got belief in the coaching staff and Justin Fry. Frederick Johnson Sr. says there's motivation from last season. That could be
Absolutely.
huge. That could be huge. Mark Flood says we always run the ball well. And I will give you this. They did run the
They
ball
do run
good
the ball
in the
very
spring
well.
game, especially up the middle,
But
which
that's the
is not
strength of that offensive line, too.
bingo. Bingo. Um, yeah, Ryan Wickerham said Justin Fry. Paul Buckeye says faith in our coaches and players. Very good. Um, Frank, great question. We had 2 first round tackles last season. Why do we have confidence in this tackle situation? Frank, I don't. I don't personally. I understand where people are coming back with the idea of coach and the practice and competition that they're getting in that practice. Bob Caruso says desire.
So let me ask you, Eric, where are you at right now?
That's
I'm
supposed to
guessing
be
you're
me.
somewhere between a 5 and a 6.
I'm at about a 5. Um, we're shopping. I know for a fact we're shopping the portal right now.
Well, I'll tell you, and we
If
talked
if
about it a little
we
before we
if
went
this
on the air.
coaching staff was as confident as a lot of you are out there with 8s and 9s, they wouldn't be shopping the portal, and I know for a fact they are.
I think they're looking like you said. The kid from Wyoming that just jumped in, I think, is an option. I definitely believe the kid from Notre Dame, Caleb Johnson, is an
Mm-hmm.
option, especially when we're looking at bringing over another possible uh, Notre Dame transfer if
Wink,
we're
wink,
lucky.
nod, nod, nod. Yeah,
We probably will jump into that maybe a little bit next week.
probably. Matt Butcher asked a great question. Between now and the start of the season, can players still transfer, and could we add players in needed positions? Yes.
Yes,
So the portal window opened for the second time this year, this past Saturday, and I believe it stays open for a while, basically until the season starts. And then once the season starts, you can jump in the portal anytime you want. You just won't get to play.
correct.
So yes, we absolutely can add. The portal window is back open, Matt Butcher. So
Yeah, Frank. I'm going to try not to butcher his name. It looks like Teresia. I mentioned Ford, the kid from USC, who's also a very good tackle as well.
mm-hmm.
So if the possibility is there, I don't know how them Cali boys will play in the Big Ten weather, but we'll find out.
We're going to find out in a couple years, aren't we?
That's right.
Uh,
So we did not touch on the second string yet, Eric.
yeah, yeah. Let me
So
answer this question. All right. Actually, here are 2 more comments before we move on.
okay,
I say 4. Donald Hoffer says I say 4 though. Tough games against Wisconsin, Notre Dame, and that team up north. That's a lot of development needed in a year. However, I hope I'm proven wrong. You and me both, Donald. I'm more with you. I think I'm at a 5, but I'm with you. Eric Osbeck, will this line open holes in our QBs and running backs? Will open up holes for our QBs and running backs. Up the middle, they did.
Yeah,
And will the O line be able to make our QB more of a double
double threat.
threat a la JT? I don't know that we have a quarterback like JT on this roster. So I don't know that that's necessarily where we're at. All right, too deep. Here we go. I'll do this one here, Chris.
Go for it.
From left to right, I've got right now George Fitzpatrick at left tackle, Ben
Mhm.
Christman at left guard, Jacob James is going to come back and be at the center, Enoch Vamahi at right guard, and Zen Mikowski at right tackle. What do you think?
I agree, but I am going to say this as well, Eric. I think if we do not manage to haul someone in the transfer portal, I believe that we are going to see Donovan Jackson kicked out to tackle
We might have to.
with Enoch Vimahi sliding into the other guard position.
I'm not against it. If we don't pick anybody up in the transfer portal, I'm not against it.
Yeah.
Based off of what I saw. I know that Donovan Jackson, though, believes his future in the NFL is at guard, and it is.
But you
Um,
know what? And we saw it a little bit with a change of position. 2 years ago.
yeah,
Who was our guy?
I know exactly who you're thinking about. Yeah,
That stuck around for a fifth year and then switched so Big Dewan could get
yeah.
in
Help
there.
us out, guys. Who are we thinking about? He was a tackle, and he went to guard, so Dewan could play tackle. I know exactly who you're thinking of.
Didn't
I
work
can't think
out
of the name.
well.
It it did. He was much better at tackle as a
Yes.
sophomore and a junior than he was senior at guard. Um, but yeah, I just think
Wow,
Donovan
Eric, we're getting
Jackson.
old, man. We can't remember
Oh,
anything.
I'm so forgetful right now. It's ridiculous.
Sarah
Mumford, thank you,
Mumford.
Frank. There, Munford. Frank, thank you.
Thank
See, we
you.
got the best listeners right
We
now.
do.
Yeah.